It's somewhat hectic here in the... Have I got this mic on? Yes. Somewhat hectic in the studio today because Simon, who's been testing the VX15, has sent it over and it arrived in the studio today. And this is a production sample. So we're giving you an early look at the VX15. So this is gaming. This is gaming. Full gaming, GTX 1050, so it should be able to cover most things, full HD up to high settings, not maybe ultra, and not maybe 4K, and not maybe virtual reality, maybe entry level virtual reality. So Acer have come out with this really interestingly priced device. It's coming out in February. This version we have here with the GTX 1050, the Core i7, 256 gigs of SSD, a terabyte hard drive, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 15-inch Full HD IPS display. What I'm going to do right now is unbox it, and then we'll go into some of the test results we've done on the preliminary sort of pre-production sample. Unfortunately, the screen on this one isn't guaranteed to be the screen that's coming out on the production versions, which will be in a matter of weeks. We're mid-February 2017 now. It's coming out February 2017. So unfortunately, I can't really give you too much feedback on the screen, but performance, definitely. We'll run a few games through, take a look around the ports. Let's first unbox it. It's shrimp time. Get rid of this! That's going to take a while to clean up later, I'm sure. So, I'm not a gamer, but in the last year of testing gaming devices at Notebook Check, I've become pretty interested in the virtual reality space. And also in some of these devices in terms of video creation, video editing, video rendering as well. And so, although I'm not really playing games myself, I am quite interested in these devices now, and I've tested probably 20 gaming laptops last year with Notebook Check. Here we are. It's looking like a gaming laptop, right? It's looking like a gaming laptop. Look at those red, the red flashing there, the style. It kind of looks like a bigger laptop when you look at the pictures online, but it is only a 15.6-inch laptop. Right, what I'm going to do is first we'll just take a look around the device. I'll throw up some specs on the screen, and then we'll talk about keyboard, the ports a little bit more in detail, some of our performance tests on the CPU, and of course the gaming. So hang around for that. Let's first take a look around the device. Right, so as that boots up, let me tell you the model here we've got probably costs around 1,200 euros, and that the model range will be starting with the Core i5 at around 1,000 euros. That's what we see online at the moment. We heard when it launched early in January that it could be a little bit less than that. Maybe this is early pricing we're seeing on the market for people that want to snap this up early, and that the price may come down a little bit from that. But even so, at 1,200 euros for this specification, that's a Core i7 with the GTX 1050 and the we've got 16 gigs of RAM in this, but also the hard drive, 1 terabyte, and the 256 gig. 256 gig? Maybe we've got the 512. Yeah, we've got the 512 M2 SATA connected SSD in here. Not sure if you can stick in an NVE connected into that slot. We'll try and take the back off actually later in this video. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that, but we'll have a go to see if we can do that without leaving any traces. Right, before I look to Simon's feedback on the keyboard, I'm just going to basically try it out myself, because you can usually get a really good feel for keyback. So I'm feeling over 1 millimeter of travel there, no noise, a nice soft sort of silky click through, definite click, and also slightly caved in surfaces. So that keyboard actually starting to feel really nice, certainly quiet. Mouse pad, big mouse pad, integrated buttons. Yeah, not too bad. Maybe this table isn't level. That's why it's kind of moving around a bit. There's a little bit of give in the casing. Casing is plastic. But in general, that surface area, that working area there seems to be pretty good. Now, I can't tell you much about the screen. It's going to be full HD. It's going to be IPS. We assume it's going to be one of the panels from the Nitro series, which means it's probably going to be good, but I can't say anything at the moment. We couldn't test this. We couldn't do our usual Kalman tests on it, luminance tests on it. So unfortunately, I can't give you much info about that. In fact, I'm looking at a non-IPS screen here at the moment. So this is definitely not anywhere near the screen that's going to come out in the full retail version. It's a shame that that USB-C port is still only USB 3.0, as are the other two full-size USB 3 ports on this side. It's a USB 2 on the other side, so you're not USB 3.1 Gen 2 here, so no Thunderbolt over that USB connection. And there's the SD card slot there, full-size SD card slot reader. We haven't done our speed tests on the SD card reader yet, but I'll try and do that actually while I'm doing these tests. I've got a personal requirement for something up to about 100 megabytes per second. When I'm doing these videos in 4K, I want to get those files onto a laptop, onto my editing desk pretty quickly. The worst case scenario is a 25 megabyte per second, as we saw on the Dell Inspiron that we had the other day. A very disappointing 25 megabytes per second on that. Some of the gaming laptops we've tested have had up to 200 megabytes per second, so just hoping this comes somewhere in the middle at 100 megabytes per second. So the storage devices we've got in here seem to be okay. That is a SATA connected SSD, so up to 500 megabytes per second read speed. The 4K read and writes were acceptable with a 38.36 write on 4Ks, 16.97 on read. And again, we don't know if that SSD is the final one. That's a Hynix Canvas 512 gig SSD in there. We haven't tested the spinning hard drive. Obviously, that's not so important in terms of storage. You're going to be placing games in there, and those that won't be too much of an issue in terms of sort of like usage speed of the device, startup of programs and that sort of thing. It's just done its updates, thanks Windows, so I'll restart that, and what I'll do is let's have a look at a couple of games. Right, so you'll see there in our test suite, we've got a lot of green there. There's some pretty heavy games in there. Curse of the Tomb Raider 2016. Sorry, I always call it Curse of the Tomb Raider. That was one of the original ones. Rise of the Tomb Raider 2016, which I personally will test in a minute, up to 38.5 on ultra settings. So that's pretty good, actually, because that's a fairly heavy game. The Witcher 3 from 2015. High settings at 37.3. So proving that this is not just entry-level PC gaming. This is full PC gaming on a laptop. The step above this would be ultra settings, 4K, and VR capabilities as well. This isn't aimed at that market. Obviously, it's aimed at a slightly lower end market than that. Right, Curse of the Tomb Raider. I'm recording this on a frame capture device. Maximum here is 60 frames a second on the refresh rate, on the recording of course, but this is full HD, full settings, 48 frames a second, so totally playable. Very high settings, the frame rate goes down. It goes about 33 from what I remember from Simon's tests, but this is fine. This is really nice. Of course, we've seen 120 frames per second on some of the high-end gaming devices, but of course this is totally playable, and there won't be any problems here. And that's an interesting proposition. 1,000 euros. Okay, this is the Core i7 version, but I'm expecting probably similar similar sort of frame rate on. Ooh. Similar sort of frame rate on the Core i5 version, maybe 10% less. Certainly under mains power. Under battery power, let's just pull that out, you'll see. Forget it. Battery power is not what you want to be using. Put mains back in and that whoops all the way up to 48, nearly 50 frames a second. Right, Fallout 4 on full settings, we should see 55 to 60 frames a second on this, as we got in our test results. I'm not a Fallout 4 player, but I'll just check the frame rate for you. We've got that recording on a frame capture device here, which will go a maximum 60 frames per second. So despite this being a production sample, I hope you got something out of that. The internals here are pretty much as they'll be when this goes out. There may be driver differences, slight driver differences, but they're not going to change the results we've seen much. The only thing is this screen. We need to test the screen on the final version to give you the verdict on that. Battery life you've seen there, just over 6 hours in Wi-Fi surfing mode. It's not a massive battery inside. Maybe that could have been a bit bigger, a little bit better, but for the size and the price here, it's interesting. Starting at 1,000, possibly a bit less, going up to about 1,200 for a Core i7 and the GTX 1050. The SSD and the terabyte hard drive, remember, 16 gigs of RAM is pretty good value. And you'll see the game tests we've done resulted in full HD high setting scenarios. So this is a gaming device and it's a good price. Think of it as a solid gaming and work and creative laptop. It's pretty interesting. Stay tuned to Notebook Check for more on this, because we'll bring you a full review in February when we get the final device. But if you've got any questions in the meantime, don't forget to put them down in the comments on YouTube. Thumbs up, subscribe. My name's Chippy. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.